It's another edition of our Rambler Insider Series presented by NovaCare Rehabilitation. I'm Sam Levitt, and joining me today is Loyola Ramblers softball head coach Alicia Abbott. Coach, most importantly, hope you and your family are doing well and are healthy. What a whirlwind this past year has been for you, getting named head coach last summer, getting acclimated to the new job, and starting the season in non-conference play, getting the season canceled before conference play could begin. What have these past few months been like?
It's been an absolute whirlwind, if I'm being honest. So, it started on such a high, and everything has kind of been from the second I stepped foot on campus in August. It was just go, go, go. Between getting our staff settled, as soon as we had that, it was time for school to start. So we were going right away. And then fall season starts. Then you slow down a little bit for individuals, and then we pick back up in January. So it's just been pretty much an absolute whirlwind of a year. And then obviously the last few weeks have just been such a halt on everything, such a weird adjustment, especially from going the pace we were going and being in the heart of season and then just having that completely change on us.
And obviously the circumstances of what's happened to the season, very unfortunate as we all try to get through this tough time. What was your message to your players as all that was transpiring?
It was hard to stay on top of it because Twitter was doing so much. We were trying to keep them abreast of the situation the whole time. We have our own group messaging system that we use. So we were going back and forth on that a little bit. We had a couple of team meetings. Unfortunately, the last one was when we told them that ultimately they decided to pull the plug for the MVC. But, it was just kind of how do we keep them ahead as much as possible when we're in such an age that social media was taking on so much of that role in and of itself. And they were hearing different things from friends at different universities. So I was just trying to stay on top of that to make sure that they were getting as much messaging from us as they could. We always talk about the game could just be gone in a second, any moment. You don't know when that's going to happen. And this was one of those things that you had no idea was coming, and then it was there. So I think for that, we just really want them to be grateful to have the opportunity to even get to represent us as a university and just the bigger picture as a whole. So I think if anything, it's just, a little bit of intrinsic motivation and a lot of gratitude.
And even though we're staying at home right now, I imagine for a lot of athletes, whether it be college sports, pro sports, it's difficult to maintain that fitness routine, stay fit, stay sharp as an athlete. So how are you making sure that players are doing what they need to be doing for when softball activities do resume?
First and foremost, honestly, it's about their safety and their health. So I think making sure that their families are staying safe, that they're staying safe is number one for us more than anything else. Luckily, we have a phenomenal strength conditioning coach who does what she can throughout the year. And then even in these last few weeks, providing them with opportunities like, hey, here's how you can modify some workouts for at home. And we've had a few nice days here, and most of our players are regional to where hopefully they've been getting outside and playing catch or just hitting, doing whatever they need to stay in shape for them. But I think first and foremost, as we kind of navigate through this weird time, it's how do we keep them healthy and safe? And then hopefully once summer kicks back up, we can kind of get that groove going again, where we can come back in the fall stronger even than we were when we left. So,
Rambler softball head coach Alicia Abbott joining us here on our Rambler Insider Conversation presented by NovaCare Rehabilitation. Alicia, you have Chicago roots. You grew up in Chicagoland, played at UIC, spent 5 years as an associate head coach at Northern Illinois before taking the Ramblers job. What was it about Loyola and the university that appealed to you?
Oh my gosh. From a recruiting standpoint, I think it's hard to compete against. From campus itself is gorgeous. And then you look at that, even aside just the academic standard that we have, I think really does set up players to have the future that they want. I think if, we're at the epicenter of one of the biggest business communities and medicine all at once. So I think that in and of itself really helps recruit it. So I think between just the beauty and then honestly, the people when I was on campus for my interviews were awesome. And they've been that way since. So I have zero qualms about, getting this opportunity to be in such a situation where the school recruits itself, the people are great, the academic standard is so high, and just really setting individuals up for success once they're done with this, because ultimately this is just a gateway for them to get where they want to go.
You talk about the beauty of the campus right on Lake Michigan in Rogers Park. And obviously one of the really unique things about Loyola is it being in Chicago, being in the heart of the Windy City, in a place like the Midwest and in Chicagoland, where there are a number of really good softball players coming out of that Chicago area. How do you take advantage of that, being a school that's right in the heart of Chicago?
For sure. What I think is pretty unique is we're in the heart of Big Ten country, even though we're in the MVC. So what that means is we get to get a little bit creative with who we're recruiting and kind of what those players look like. I do think, even our next coming class, they have a standard of like, 1, first and foremost, they're good people. 2, they're great students. 3, they're good students of the game. So using those and utilizing those tools, it's figuring out how to be a little bit different in the MVC to set us apart so we can ultimately create that championship culture. And obviously that starts with culture first, but down the road, that championship caliber team year after year, to where using the resources we have here with the great travel ball, the locale to an airport, the ability to get anywhere we want to in the country, it just makes things a lot easier.
Let's talk about some of your players. Catcher Allison Ivy, she had a sensational 2019 season as a sophomore. First team All-MVC, set the program record for batting average with a .460 clip and a record 54 RBIs. What were your impressions of her as you saw her prepare for the season and play for the first time?
What's really awesome about her is she always wants to do her absolute best, and her standard is so high. She's kind of impenetrable as a wall. Like, you don't know if she's having a good day or a bad day, which is so good. She's so consistent when she shows up. She shows up and she knows who she wants to be every day. And I think that in and of itself is such a feat and what set her apart last year. Even this year, when you're going into the MVC stat lines, like she was leading in RBIs. Like, she was having what she thought was a down year, and it's crazy because it's not. It's not she wasn't at 460 right now, but like it's still an incredible journey to watch for her and just watch her grow as a person and a player and just show up with that consistency every day, because it's a special attribute for any athlete really to be able to do that.
Allison Ivy certainly was off to a very good start in the 2020 season. Outfielder Jessica Shields, Valley Newcomer of the Year in 2019. She also got off to a great start this season, was hitting a team high 386 when play stopped. How important was Jessica Shields in non-conference play?
Super. Just from she would get on and she would either get to second. We were always talking about, how do we get this girl to 40 stolen bases in a year? That was the goal this year, was 40 stolen bases. It was funny because we kept not being able to steal because she would get to second. Like, she would either hit a double or she'd hit a good single, but then be able to take advantage of going to 2. So it was just really unique in the fact that, like, she was able to generate so much for us, especially at the top of that order. And she had the people behind her that were giving us runs. So she was scoring, and she was just such an asset to have in our lineup, regardless of where she would have been.
Shields is one of a few seniors on this team. Outfielder Shannon McGee, also an impactful player, hit 356 in non-conference play. I know there's still information coming out about the NCAA potentially granting spring sport athletes another year of eligibility due to the unfortunate circumstances we're in. And I know right now you might not have all the answers, but how do you think that ultimately might affect your program?
If they were to choose to come back, that would help us. It would definitely give us something that we might not have next year. But ultimately, it's how do we help keep them happy and moving on with life if that's what they choose to do. But honestly, from a standpoint of, like, would it be helpful in our lineup to absolutely have them? Yep, 100%. Would it be helpful in our outfield? Absolutely. So it's just kind of, it's helping them navigate through this time too, because it's a situation no senior ever expects to be in. So how do we just help them as much as we can to do whatever they ultimately at the end of the day decide to do? So.
Ramblers softball head coach Alicia Abbott joining us for a conversation this afternoon. Let's talk a little bit of pitching. Sydney Ruggles and Madison Veras, they didn't pitch a ton in 2019, but they by far pitched the most innings on this team in 2020, both just over 50 innings apiece. From the pitching standpoint, what do you expect to transpire in the coming season after the summer?
What we like to say is one advantage we have is nobody in conference saw them. So it's a unique little matchup for us so that's making it basically what will be Maddie Veris's entire career without anybody have really seen her in conference aside from a few games here and there. And for Sydney, obviously the same boat where nobody in conference has really seen her yet. So I do think it gives us an advantage from that standpoint, because what was really nice, we got them some experience this year. Right. We were nervous walking into this year just from a lack of experience standpoint, not from a lack of talent. It was more, okay, we have no idea what to expect. So they did phenomenal though. Like between Coach Menry calling pitches and working with them every day, like it just made such a difference. And we were able to play a little bit of Moneyball where we matched them up, tried to as much as possible to put them in really successful situations. But honestly, I think we're in a really good place in that circle right now. So it's how do we even step up our game a little bit more from there.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Moneyball. I'm searching for things to watch right now at home. That's a good
Right.
one. I have to rewatch. But you do make an interesting point in the sense that you had those two pitchers in Ruggles and Veris get that experience while not having to see anyone in Valley play. So I guess in a weird way, that could maybe be an advantage heading into next year.
Absolutely. That's what we're going with. So, just how do we help them finesse a little bit more? We obviously know where our weak spots are. We know where our good spots are. So how do we take advantage of this time and get them to grow in the next 6 months? Really, realistically, it's going to be the next year, right? But to even be in a better situation than we were this year.
Your first recruiting class with the Ramblers is coming in the fall. Obviously, recruiting such a big part of building a program, making it your own. 4 players signed to national letters of intent coming into the program. What's the overview of that class?
So we have a lot of utility in that class, which is really, really nice. Something that I think will be incredibly helpful with them is just the depth they'll provide across the entire field. So obviously, like we've lost a lot. If Jess and Shannon McGee choose to not come back, and Emily Borg for that, like if they choose to not come back, it's trying to figure out how we fill some holes there. But what I love about this class is they're Ramblers through and through. Like this is number one for them. This is where they want to be. So I think that in and of itself says a lot. And then just their willingness to learn and grow, something super helpful as a freshman. And I think they'll jump into our culture and just really be a good part of it. And then the other side of it, obviously, is the utility that they provide both infield and outfield. So it's really giving our infield, especially, a lot more depth to where we might have a little extra competition behind players who have traditionally started in the past. So hopefully that makes us better in the long run, because in theory, that's how it's supposed to work. So.
Well, certainly a very exciting class coming in, and I know we're all looking forward to seeing Loyola softball back in action as you get into fall camp and things rev up as we get into 2021. I know for me down here in minor league baseball, we're hoping we're going to get back to playing baseball hopefully soon. Alicia, Abbott, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for taking a little time. Stay safe. Best of luck with everything coming up, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Sam. You as well.